Hello everyone, I'm back. If you want to know where I've been for the last 5 months, I made a video linked up here, and if you don't care, that is also fine. Also, my hair is black now, that's also explained in the video. Alright, now let's talk about this bastard of a film, shall we? This movie was distributed by the Daily Wire, which, if you don't know what that is a conservative news website and media company founded by Ben Shapiro back in 2015. You know him, we all know him. I'm assuming. I'd be really impressed if you did not, but Ben Shapiro is a conservative political commentator, and I keep hearing about this movie as like the Ben Shapiro movie, and it's really not. The movie was made by director Kyle Rankin and played at a film festival in Venice before Ben Shapiro's company, The Daily Wire, bought the distribution rights to it. So it's not like cultivated by Ben Shapiro or written by him or even really for him. But what that does mean is that whatever this movie is doing was something that Ben Shapiro wanted to promote. If you're curious as to what that is, it's guns. It's guns. You'll see, but it's guns. The film. So we start early in the morning with our protagonist, Zoe. Her name is hunting with her father. She shoots a deer but fails to kill it instantly. While her father is talking about the mercies of putting this creature out of its misery, she just grabs a rock and kills it without any hesitation, quite violently too. It seems very much like she might have some problems, mentally. Mayhaps. At home, she speaks to her mother, who wears the signature "I'm in a movie and I have cancer" wrapped around her head. Zoe's father walks in and asks who she's talking to. Zoe claims she was just speaking to a fly, and the mother is very suddenly gone from the frame, solidifying that the mother is a figment of Zoe's imagination that she interacts with and or a hallucination after her mother probably died from cancer. At this point, her father suggests returning to therapy, likely due to the deer instance, as her friend Lewis honks his horn outside their house. Apparently, she has given up all technology and all of her hobbies after her mother's death, and her father is growing increasingly worried about her. There is conversation about the green jacket that she apparently wears constantly, apparently having not taken off since her mother's death. Her dad apparently fought in the war, a war, I don't know. It's weird how they talk about it. The war has to be like Afghanistan. Anyways, she wears this green jacket as kind of a representation of how she's at war in her head. Lewis enters to get Zoe and is our lovable, awkward nerd character. Then they go to school. It is senior prank day and also, I guess, the ideal day for promposals because they are both constant here and discussed a lot. Lewis really wants Zoe to go to her locker, obviously planning a little promposal himself, but she doesn't go. She instead goes to class. She's not like an outcast or anything. We see within this segment that she talks to some classmates. She's kind to them. She's got like a nice rapport with some of them. This movie does do this thing at this point where it's trying to build up suspense with like loud sounds that sound like gunshots and like this attempt to jump scare you, as well as like sometimes gun-shaped objects being like pulled out very suddenly here and there. The events of this movie are obvious from every part of it, the name, the poster, the premise, the advertising, so I get the logistics of this, trying to build up suspense. People already know what's going to happen, so they're trying to get them to jump at the prospect of it happening sooner. But this is where a big problem with this movie really shows up. Kyle Rankin, the director, is an action movie director, and here he's making an action movie, and his other films are all action movies. The problem is that what is being represented on the screen is not action movie material. And there is something, maybe it was just me, but there is something very off about watching this movie, especially in these moments building up to what is to happen. It feels off. You know what's going to happen. You know what you're about to watch. But the way that it's being portrayed is not the lens that I at least expected to see it portrayed. And the extreme action movie lens really hurts the premise and doesn't allow the premise to exist outside of just being the setting for what is to happen. And so it's kind of pointless to have the whole school shooting thing be the setting at all at that point. Like, could you imagine even today, much less like right after it or even while it was happening, could you imagine a high-stakes action movie being made about 9/11? Like, movies were made, mind you. I've never seen at least a action thriller toned movie about 9/11 because that's horrible. And I think this movie really perfectly outlines why. The moment the premise of Girl Save School from Active Shooter took on a high-stakes action lens, the movie already lost itself in being able to be any kind of meaningful commentary or any kind of action film that isn't going to be heavily distracted from by the fact that we are dealing with a cultural trauma. Anyways, back in the school, Zoe finally sees Lewis's proposal at her locker and she gets very upset. Elsewhere in the town, we see fires are being started along the road, in fields, and in like old buildings. A boy, who I will be referring to as the bullied one, leaves a backpack at the main office of the school. Lewis realizes that Zoe is upset about the proposal thing at lunch and tries to dismiss it as saying that it was just a friend thing and he just wants to go with her as a friend, but she's being very dismissive of it and actually like kind of downright antagonistic about it until he like reaches across the table and spills juice on her jacket. This like needs to happen so she's not there when the shooters pull up, but it also is just like a really forced action of like him reaching across and spilling it. Like, I don't know, just it looks weird. She goes to the bathroom to try and wash the juice out of her jacket. In the bathroom, Zoe's hallucinated mother speaks to her about how she's pushing Lewis away when he just wants to make memories with her. In the cafeteria, Lewis anxiously awaits Zoe's return when, amongst more prom proposals, a white van drives through a wall of the cafeteria. As this happens, some people like immediately run, some people immediately duck their heads, like even before the van like breaks the wall. And I don't know, but even on like my first watching of this, I found everyone's immediate responses just like very weird and unnatural. From here, I will be limiting the scenes that I show, as the portrayal of violence is exactly how it would be in any standard action movie and is very sickening to watch, knowing the connotation of the fact that this is not just a movie being portrayed, but a very traumatizing reality. Two guys get out of the van. One is the one we'll be calling leader guy, and the other is the mentally ill one. More on that later. We also have the female one, the girl one, who enters the cafeteria and fires multiple shots into the air. The bullied one comes in from a different entrance with a shotgun he pulls from a bag. The mentally ill one has an automatic rifle and fires numerous shots at multiple people, and the leader guy just has a knife for some reason. The leader guy gets out of the van and says, "Trigger warning," and I mentioned this for later. The dialogue at points, especially with this character, is very weird and really adds to the confusion on what the director was trying to do or what he was trying to say with this portrayal. Somehow, despite all of this, outside of the cafeteria, no one has any idea what just happened. As shown when the female one kind of walks around the school after all of that, she's like walking around, she's greeting her peers on her way to the custodial office while the PA system continues to make normal school announcements. Keep in mind the amount of noise from the van driving through the wall of the school and all of the gunshots. Leader guy starts talking to the people in the cafeteria, tells everyone to listen to him, he's in charge and they might get out alive. He torments a guy who bullied him and the mentally ill one shoots him, but then immediately gets reprimanded by the leader who doesn't want to kill people yet. So leader guy is like a caricature of a school shooter. It's not good. I feel like it's a very weird way to try to portray someone like this because I don't think that's how they are. Zoe sneaks back into the cafeteria, peering around a corner. A guy with headphones in walks past her despite both her warnings, the frantic way she is presenting and trying to shush him and bring him back. When the bullied one sees him and then goes to check and see if anyone else is behind the corner, her hallucination mother gives like the first instruction. Run. She runs, hides in the bathroom, and climbs up the ventilation system of the school to hide out. The leader then encourages everyone to pull out their phones and call their parents. Of course, he has to do this in the most I am a cartoon villain way possible. Zoe accidentally falls through the ceiling into the kitchen. It's loud. Apparently that is a sound that can be heard from different rooms, not the gunshots though. They send the mentally ill one after her. She cowers next to the lunch lady in hiding. The mentally ill one calls out for whoever's in there to come out. The lunch lady does to save Zoe. We see the traffic on the streets caused by all the fires. Back in the cafeteria, the leader guy takes a student's phone, quips at the guy's mom in again a very cartoon villainy kind of way, don't like this portrayal at all, and uses the phone to call the front desk of the school, arrogantly telling them that he's an active shooter in the cafeteria, and I still cannot figure out how this is news to them. The leader tells the hostage students that they won't sound an active shooter alarm until it is confirmed that there's an active shooter, which he knows because they publicly vote on this at the school board meeting, and they should all pay more attention to this stuff. And then he instructs everyone to start live streaming him. This here could have been an interesting point to be made. I've heard it before, and kind of like the discourse that young people have about the situation where when the student is the one who is the perpetrator, all of the ways that the school tries to prepare, they're telling whoever is going to eventually be the perpetrator their plans ahead of time, and that can cause a huge threat to the other students. A better movie would have gone into that. A better movie might have tried to portray the shooters as taking advantage of that and specifically using the lockdown procedures that the school had against it. I'm glad that this movie didn't do that because I don't like that idea circulating around. I also don't like portraying school shooters as intelligent because I don't think they are. But the fact that it's brought up like this and then never done anything with is also weird. Like, I can see all these sprouts of ideas that this guy probably had. I just don't understand why he didn't do anything with any of them. Maybe because it was too offensive, but then why is this movie even being made? Because with or without that, like, the premise is what makes it offensive. But anyway, the leader guy, he instructs everyone to start live streaming him. Zoe makes it out of the school. She goes to run for it, but turns back. She wants to help people. She starts running around the school, telling classmates who are trying to enter to run instead, and that there is an active shooter. The counselor enters the cafeteria, trying to calm the situation, announcing he's unarmed. And I hate this character, the leader. And not for all the reasons I should. Like, obviously I hate him for those reasons too, but like, as a representation of this kind of person, he's so arrogant and quippy and put together. I also think it dangerously paints them as like very cartoony, and they're not cartoony, they're very real. And I don't like this portrayal. I just don't. Maybe I am getting too upset about a little thing when there's all this other stuff wrong with this movie, but This really bothers me. Anyways, the counselor doesn't make it. Long story short, there's also a weird moment where the security guard who came with the counselor gets chased out, but the leader tells the mentally ill one to like not kill him and let him go. But the leader also like makes a comment about how the security guard can't be expected to protect the school when he's not even allowed to have a gun. So Zoe and a girl who joined her are banging on classroom windows trying to get teachers in classes that are still going on to listen to her about the active shooter, but she is not being listened to. Class and school is continuing as normal. And I didn't expect this movie to make a whole lot of sense, but it really doesn't make a lot of sense here. This is our timeline. So it's a normal school day. It's a lunch period for some. That's where Lewis is. He's in lunch with Zoe. Zoe leaves. Car drives through the side of a building. Loud commotion. A building. A wall gone. Multiple shots are fired from a shotgun and an automatic rifle. Those are both loud guns, okay? There is no silencers or anything. These are just full-blown shots being made. So the main shooter guy has everyone make phone calls to their parents, and he calls the front desk and tells them what he's doing, and he starts live streaming. But still, as this girl is trying to warn people outside of the school, people aren't taking her seriously, and classes are just continuing as normal. Back in the cafeteria, the guy makes the person with the most viewers on their stream announce themselves. It's Lewis, because we need him to be part of things still. Lewis gets appointed like the official cameraman of the shooters, which is just a very bizarre choice of all things, story-wise, logistics-wise. So Zoe starts breaking windows to get people to react, finally convincing one classroom to climb out and run into the surrounding trees. Back at the cafeteria, the leader tells the live stream being filmed by Lewis that it's not that hard to build a wall. He does this like as he's instructing everybody to like block the hole that he made in the wall with the van. But I don't know, just like that line of dialogue, again, very bizarre. He then leads Lewis to the other side of the van where two injured girls are about to be killed by the mentally ill one. The leader spews some weird stuff about Hitler and the master race before saying that it's a good thing that they aren't Nazis and having him, the mentally ill one, not kill the girls. Which, back to my point about him saying some really weird stuff, the trigger warning comment, the build a wall comment, the encouragement of a school security guard to wear guns to protect the school. What are the images that those kinds of sentences put in your head? Because like, I don't get what is trying to be said here. Trigger warning is used against liberals a lot and young people in general. Plus the build a wall comment, like it just seems like it's a reference to Trump. It comes out of nowhere. It doesn't make any sense. And then like the promoting the idea of guards carrying guns to defend themselves against shootings and gun violence is another widely held conservative ideal. So like, is it just me or does this seem like the very evil people who are the school shooters are being led by someone who seems to be very arrogantly conservative? And then like with the Nazi comment too, it's very, I'm not saying that conservative people are Nazis. I'm really not. I'm just saying that it's just a very weird thing to have your characters say alongside all of these other weird things.
It's basically that based off of what was said, I would guess that the intention was to make the shooters seem conservative, which would then be like making fun of conservatives. That would be like potentially, I guess, like a liberal thing to put in your movie. But the problem is that when you watch this film, it seems very much like it was a film made by a conservative man. Like if I had to guess his political affiliation, I would say that he was conservative. So that's where the confusion comes in. Why would he model the villains off of the political ideology that is promoted the most heavily throughout his film?
It's also like totally bonkers that they are allowing Lewis to be their cameraman, and they actually reveal a big part of their plot a few minutes after appointing his role to him anyways, when he catches sight of what's in the van. So Zoe in the classroom pulls the fire alarm. The staff is not informed as to what is going on still, which is noted by the fact that everybody starts leaving the school because of the fire alarm. The custodian walks in on the female one in the custodial closet still. Almost forgot about her, didn't ya? She cuts the fire alarm, and then everyone just kind of goes back to their classes that they were just exiting. Zoe leaves the evacuating class to try and get more people to leave the school. The sheriff is now finally alerted to what is going on at the school as he tries to get around the traffic caused by the fires. The female one cuts all the power. Zoe's frantically trying to get people to exit. She turns a corner and slips on a senior prank, which is just oil poured down like a slanted hallway. A cop car shows up, and now it is confirmed that they're active shooters. The gunshots, faculty members approaching the scene, the counselor getting shot, the huge hole in the side of the building, the security guard witnessing the whole thing, all of the phone calls to the parents, and the live streams weren't enough until just now. The lockdown announcement is finally made. One of the backpack bombs from the beginning of the movie goes off as the security guard tries to yell at Zoe for being out of a classroom. She's like, I'm not one of them, and he's like, how am I supposed to know that? Which, like, valid point, but then the bomb goes off, he dies. Classrooms and teachers frantically struggle to actually lock down as the sheriff arrives. Zoe's hallucinated mother shows up again and talks about death and how it's not that painful, while Zoe rummages through the dead guy's pockets. The mother says that the dead guy is free of all attachments and gone, and paints it as like it's a good thing. Zoe questions if she's also free of all attachments and being dead, and the hallucinated mother says that no, because someone is still holding on to her. And then there's another weird scene that makes me really question what the hell this movie is trying to say. The leader approaches a girl in the crowd in the cafeteria because she's wearing a cross necklace, I think is what gets his attention. He asks if she believes in God. Without hesitation, she says yes. He says, then why would God let something like this happen to you? And the girl returns with a simple answer.
Free will. God allows the wicked to do their wickedness.
It just all feels like very exploitative, but the attention is turned very quickly as the news is about to broadcast their stream. The leader and the bullied one go to round more people up from different classrooms, while the mentally ill one keeps the cafeteria in check. Zoe is trying to warn classrooms to leave because the lockdown is exactly what the shooters want. No one is listening to her because she is a potential threat, honestly, out there. The female one rounds the corner, sees Zoe start shooting. Zoe cowers behind an open locker. Hallucinated mother instructs Zoe to then hide. She hides in a room full of balloons from senior prank day. The leader goes into a Spanish class to round up some more students into the cafeteria. Lewis is with him, still recording. The teacher in the Spanish classroom tries to reason with the leader, but he gets creepy and makes her strip. I don't like it. Lewis is still unabashedly recording. He does turn on a chat feature to distract the leader for a while, appeal to his ego as people ask him questions, allow him to bask in a spotlight so he's not killing people for a few minutes. The female one goes into the balloon room and starts shooting at the balloons. At Zoe jumps out, wrestles the gun from her, and gives her a final good shot. She rummages through her pockets and takes the girl's phone. All of the shooters are communicating through their phones. The police go to the leader guy's home where he has killed his mom and put her in front of the TV to watch. Zoe's dad hears on the radio what is happening. The mentally ill one is hearing voices and is responding to them about not taking his body. He sees the police getting ready on the news and shoots out of the cafeteria at them. The leader then snaps out of his bragging moment with Lewis in the stream because I guess now the bullets are loud enough to be heard outside of the cafeteria. And they group all the people together from the class and lead them back to the cafeteria. Bullied one breaks away from the group, get more people, and walks right by where Zoe is hiding behind a wall. Zoe's dad grabs a gun and then heads to the school. Back in the cafeteria, leader guy calms mentally ill guy down, who then attempts to kiss him. It's revealed the female one is the mentally ill one's sister, and both of them are in a relationship with the leader guy. All of this is being streamed. The bullied kid is trying to round up more students. Zoe tries to sneak up on him, but the phone she took from the female one goes off. Bullied one chases her, firing a shotgun. She leads him to the hallway with the oil where she slipped, and he slips too, and then she hits him over the head with a fire extinguisher and handcuffs him to a chair. Hallucination mother returns. Her cancer head wrap is gone and her hair is showing. They talk about the day she died and how Zoe can only see her mother in her death and not in her life, but that she's getting stronger? Bullied guy wakes up and calls her out for hearing voices too. I guess he's referencing the mentally ill one. He talks about a reckoning. She yells at him. He talks about how he was bullied, how people made fun of him. You've heard it all before. She tells him that he's killing innocent people for the transgressions of a few, and even those few don't deserve this. And it's long and emotional, and I agree with what she says, I do, but I hate the whole, oh, he's realizing his mistake kind of thing going on here. I hate that she's talking sense into him. I'm sorry, but as soon as you make a decision like that, I have no sympathy for anything that happens to you ever, and I don't think there's any sense left in someone who can do something like that. Like, I don't think you could reason with them. I think they're beyond help. They don't fully try to get us to sympathize with this bullying story, but I still hate that we even have to hear it. No one in his position deserves an explanation or an excuse for their behavior. I wish that she would have cut him off immediately, like not let him say a single word, and then just hit him over the head again. I would have preferred that. But instead we get him like feeling bad for what he's done, which like it's too late for that. She leaves him there. Her dad pulls up in his truck. The police have gathered around the school, parents, the whole shebang. Zoe now has the shotgun from the guy that she bonked with the fire extinguisher. She loads it as a group of students and a teacher round the corner. Seeing her, they assume she's the shooter. A very reasonable assumption, mind you. She goes,
Please, Zoe, no, I'm sorry. I'm not one of them, okay?
and they just go, oh, okay. Like, what? No. If I ran into the weird girl in my school who just suffered a bad tragedy and always wears a military jacket with a shotgun during an active shooter situation, I am not believing her when she said she's not one of them. But they just take her word without a second thought, and this happens a lot in this movie, because this movie refuses to exist in reality. Refuses to acknowledge that the hardest part about school shootings is that every student is a suspect. There's a reason why we have the procedures we do. Are they perfect? No. Do they work? Great? Not always, but there's a reason why they don't work, and there's a reason why they exist. And this movie just ignores all of that. It just completely ignores all of it. Which again, if you're not going to use the things that exist in a situation, why are you having the movie take place in that situation to begin with? There's a lot of stuff that can be done here, but he has no interest in doing any of it. So why is he making a movie about this? The group has been watching the shooters on their phones through the stream, and so they tell Zoe that all the shooters are in the cafeteria, and like, yeah, that would be a really good way to let the police and the students keep tabs on you. Like, it's public. They didn't cut off the Wi-Fi in the school or anything, so yeah, kind of just gave everyone who wasn't in the cafeteria a huge out. And honestly, there's not even that many kids in the cafeteria, and they haven't done a good job about rounding up the students from the rest of the school. Zoe calls a girl who is on the outside. The girl gives the phone to the sheriff and asks him to keep the news from pointing the cameras at the school until the students get out so the shooters don't see. But again, if everyone has access to the feed, the doors aren't locked, all of their locations are known because they are showing everyone where they are. Why would they be shocked that students are getting out? Regardless, the officer agrees and gets the news crew to focus on him as he calls the shooter. Zoe sends all of the students out and goes back into school. The teacher of the group is staying with her for this. The leader talks to the sheriff over the phone and they banter back and forth. I don't like listening to him. I don't like this conversation. I don't like any of it. It's like they're trying to make him cool and suave as like an action movie villain, but as a person person playing a school shooter. I really wish they would have portrayed him more realistically, like as an unhinged, stupid coward. Kind of hate all the banter and witty talk. It's actually infuriating. The sheriff mentions his dead mother. The leader one says maybe if she watches to the end, she'll finally be proud of him. So we've got mommy issues, we got bullied, and we've got schizophrenia as our 3 different motives for this. Then we have the female, and I'm pretty sure her only motive was to be edgy. The teacher and Zoe are getting more and more students at the school, while the sheriff continues to talk to the leader, and he's going on about how humanity is a joke. But none of it makes any sense. Like, he's just spewing stuff at this point. And I think the director is just spewing stuff too. Like, I don't think there's intention in this writing. The leader ends the call with the sheriff when he sees on the news broadcast that someone is helping the students out. The news headline says, "Saved by Angel Classmate." The broadcast is muted. The use of the terminology like angel, again, with all of the stuff that we've seen before, interesting choice. But anyway, the broadcast is muted. And despite like that headline being really the only thing that he saw, he immediately goes, "I see what you did, sheriff." As if he put together that A, the sheriff did that to distract him. Distract him from what? Kids leaving out the empty doors that he isn't guarding and that have been unlocked and open this whole time? And B, that the angel classmate means that there is someone out there like intentionally fighting them off and letting everyone out group by group instead of maybe just like one kid led the group out or one kid helped the group. Like, he just put together everything we've seen based on that. Zoe's dad finds out that Zoe, who's helping everybody out when a kid tells him, Zoe and the teacher are grabbing more people. The teacher is good here because if it was just Zoe, I'm sure everyone would assume that she was the shooter carrying around her big old shotgun. In fact, I'm surprised more people aren't reacting when they see her. Like, they're not trying to run or at least seem startled at first before the teacher like calms them down. Like, they're just like, oh, a girl running towards us with a gun during an active shooter situation. I hope she's here to save us. The leader tries calling the female one and the bullied one, but obviously neither are picking up. Zoe has both phones. He also, I guess, put that together from the whole angel classmate saves us headline because he goes,
"Okay, well, if nobody from my team is responding, is it safe to say that this might be our guardian angel?"
and again, like, guardian angel terminology here, kind of weird, kind of interesting. Seems like there's a point to all this. How did he put together that there is one person who saved all the kids and took out both of his friends? Like, there are so many people in the school, and there are security guards, and there are so many police outside, and he hasn't been, like, watching the doors or anything. How does he know that there are officers in the building trying to take them down? All the cops and everybody are just standing outside, like, letting this girl do her thing, but that's not how it works. Like, isn't it just more logical to assume that your friends got picked off by maybe a SWAT team and that your plan is falling apart? Anyways, he asked for a response over the phone, assuming that the guardian angel has it, and giving one is the stupidest thing you can do in this situation. Like, for, like, the dumbest thing. Since, like, as soon as he has a line of communication with you, he can demand things. He's got hostages. He can make you do whatever he wants. But she answers. And, like, the whole thing is like, oh, he's surprised she's a girl. Why did she answer? He tells her to come to him or he's going to kill someone, like, every 5 minutes, which, like, obviously that's what he does. He kills someone, she panics, she tells the teachers and the students to leave, and then runs to the cafeteria. Zoe's dad grabs his rifle and an active crime scene of a shooter and slips under an armored military vehicle without anyone in the huge crowd surrounding the school seeing him, and rides the bottom of it closer to the school. Before going to the cafeteria, Zoe goes back to the bullied one, who begs for death, now extremely remorseful for his actions. She convinces him to help her and gives him the shotgun, because he's definitely not an unpredictable person who shouldn't be handed a weapon. She also unlocks his hands, tells him what to do a bit. She shows up in the cafeteria. Lewis is still just holding the phone. Meanwhile, Zoe's dad sets up his rifle in the woods and prepares to snipe the shooters. The cops obviously are not doing anything like that, because why would they be doing their jobs when we could just leave all of the hope of this town and this entire school in the hands of a teenager and her father? The leader doesn't immediately kill her and says it's because of the ratings. I guess this is like a performance for him, which again could have been established that like he really wanted to like make a performance, but he keeps stating that his motivations are to make this like the biggest shooting ever, and his actions completely compromise that every step of the way. He states very clearly that he wants to do the best ultimate school shooting. He wants to be remembered. So that's his goal. Two conflicting goals in this are being placed in the same person, and they directly compromise each other and conflict with each other. And it's very, very stupid. And it almost kind of feels like, and I do wonder, I could be totally wrong here, but I wonder if there was like another character and then just like in writing, they just made two characters one character. Also, like while Lewis is filming this, like you can see like the emojis people are leaving on the video, and who outside of a boomer would leave an angry face emoji on live footage of a shooting? Like, who would do that? So bullied kid comes up with a shotgun, mentally ill kid and him shoot at each other. Bullied kid gets killed. He's the only one that gets killed. Zoe and Lewis make a run for it in the commotion. Lewis drops the streaming phone in the hallway, and the leader sends the mentally ill kid after Zoe while he maintains the cafeteria. Zoe finds a couch and rests Lewis on it because he got hit in the commotion, and she kisses him. Lewis tells her that the van is rigged to explode, which is Zoe runs off, leading the mentally ill kid kid into the science room. They scramble. Her mom tells her to fight this time. The title is complete now, I guess. Mentally ill kid almost kills her, but then her father snipes him through a window and then is immediately arrested. Why aren't the cops sniping them? Zoe gets the mentally ill one's phone and starts taunting the shooter, which, like, that's an amazing idea to get everyone shot. She grabs the rifle and starts towards the cafeteria, still taunting him as she gets the streaming phone out of the hallway. Thank God the news didn't turn off the stream after it became just the ceiling for like 10 minutes after Lewis dropped it. Then there is this.
I mean, isn't it ironic? After all your goddamn hard work, people aren't gonna remember you?
No?
No. They're gonna remember me.
Leader guy grabs a bucket from the van and sets something up inside it. He grabs a random boy and leads him out into the hallway. Zoe runs into the cafeteria and tells everyone to leave as they were just sitting there waiting for death, I guess. She sees the van's about to explode, but people are taking too long to get out, so she uses the rifle to push the gas and sends it backwards out of the cafeteria. The direction that she sends it out is the exact door, hole in the wall that everyone was using to escape after she told them to run. So realistically, she just kind of said that flying into a group of people. She goes back after the leader, but there's an explosion and she sees a body. The police swarm her and bind her because they can't tell if she's one of the shooters or not. She hallucinates her mom one more time, where she doesn't look cancerous at all, and says a tearful goodbye. And why is this in the movie? Where does it fit? Where does it align with character motivations? Where does it fit the theme? What does it fit what's trying to be said? Why is it, where does a mother dying of cancer fit in thematically with school shooting action movie? Like, her whole thing with her mom is that she can't let go of her, and also that she remembers her as dying and not how she lived, and she's stuck in that pain. But what does that have to do with overcoming a school shooting and besting shooters? Like, where do they tie together? Because I don't see it. It's very bizarre to have in here. It just feels very out of place, and it's played out like she's healing during this event. Like, this event is healing her, but how is this event healing her? She's watching her classmates die horribly. It's probably the single most traumatizing thing that has ever and will ever happen in her life. Why is this a moment of healing for her? And aside from that, obviously the body that she saw from the explosion isn't the leader, because why would it, like, action movie format, of course it's not. Like, she has to final off with the guy. That's how action movies work, and this is an action movie. Anyways, she's outside in the back of a SWAT car. The sheriff thanks her for her work. She talks to her dad, thanks him for saving her life. She sees Lewis. He's going to be okay. She looks up at the right time to see the leader kid walk out of a group of other kids and into the woods. I guess none of them noticed that the guy who held some of them at gunpoint and broadcasted it to the rest of them is next to them, but whatever. She asks her dad where the rifle is. He says it's still in the woods where he left it, and she runs into the woods, and nobody follows her, and the police don't care what's going on at all because they don't know how to be police officers. She hunts the leader down in the woods. It's all coming full circle to the beginning scene, and then she does not kill the shooter immediately and walks away, leaving him to bleed out painfully. The end. Fuck. Okay, so it's obvious that Ben Shapiro wanted this movie because it's pro-gun, right? Like at every turn, more guns are being thrown in. There's never any issues that arise from there being a gun. If there were just more guns, then everything would be fine. That's what it seems like. If only they had guns to defend themselves, then it would be fine. Like, right? Like, that's it, because why else would Ben Shapiro want this movie? But this movie sucks because it refuses to acknowledge the downsides of that. Like, okay, security guard has a gun. Could be helpful. Could get one of the bad guys out of the way, maybe, if they split up, or if one of them leaves the crowd of hostages. Alright, but Zoe has a gun. People should not trust her like they do in this movie. Her saying, I'm not one of them, should not be enough for everybody to trust her when she's carrying around a shotgun. Like, it shouldn't be. But it is, for some reason. And it's stupid. It looks stupid. It feels stupid. It is stupid. How about Guard has gun, and Zoe has gun, and Guard shoots Zoe because he thinks she's one of them? That's having guns and doing the both sides thing. That's allowing her to have the gun to, like, be able to be a badass, but also, like, realistically expressing the downsides to that. Her father coming on the scene and wasting one with a gun he brought along. Stupid. The police have guns. If you want this to be, like, pro-gun, why don't the police use their guns? Why is this random man able to locate the threat, but the police who've been here for hours can't? There's this interview with the director, and in the interviewer asks, despite the right-wing association with the Daily Wire, it doesn't feel really weighed down with the right-wing ideology, which, like, yes, it's not super weighed down by it. It's weirdly there in a way that doesn't make sense to me, the right-wing ideology, but the pro-gun thing is definitely there, which he addresses. He goes, I mean, you could make the argument that there's definitely a pro-gun element there. The director says, yes, I guess it is pro-gun. The director, Kyle Renkin. He claims very intentionally that this movie wasn't intended to be political, and I do agree with that, but again, I don't understand why some of the things that are thrown in here are thrown in here. Like, I don't understand that scene with the girl who admits her faith. Like, I don't understand why it's there, because nothing is done with it. Nothing is explored into it. Just like the weird comments that the guy makes, or the weird thing about social media. Like, it's just put there and then never gone into. So, like, yeah, it's not political, but it's also not trying to say anything, like, anything worthwhile at all. So, like, why even mention it? Why even bring it up if you're just gonna say it and then, like, whoop, whoop, didn't do it. It's not political. It feels cheap. It feels cheap and lazy. Furthermore, in the interview with Dread Central, he gets asked, now that the movie's out, to call it divisive would be an understatement. But from your perspective, how has the response been? Kyle responds, it's funny because the people who are like, oh, it's controversial, it's divisive, a lot of them haven't seen it. I tried to very much walk a political line, and I always told everyone I want this to be so that two friends on opposite sides of the political spectrum could go watch this and both feel like it honored them. They could go out for coffee or a beer and talk about it and be like, oh man, I liked how it did this, I liked how it did that. I mostly just wanted to write a story about bravery and putting others ahead of yourself. Alright, let's go into that. To say that he tried to walk a political line? No. There's no nuance here. There's nothing being said, political or otherwise. Like, there's no line. There is no line. It's just making statements and then abandoning them. That's all that this movie is politically, other than the pro-gun thing. And if you just wanted to write a story about bravery and putting others ahead of yourself, why did this have to be the setting? And why couldn't you have done it better? He says that there's been several movies that have followed the shooters and have been like documentaries that have explored the mind of the shooter, and he wanted to make something that did the opposite and followed the victims. So why is it better to follow the shooters, and that's not exploitative, but if you follow someone who's trying to fight back, somehow it is. I don't like the misinformation that's in this film. I feel like that could potentially be dangerous. You're trying to empower somebody. I think there was room to make the movie he wanted. Sure, it still would have been iffy with the premise, but there was room. The problem is that the movie becomes a hazard the more it encourages behavior outside the protocol of a school's lockdown during a shooting in such a way that if this were reality, a lot more people would have died because of the actions taken that are encouraged and praised in this film. The whole premise was trying to paint it this way, that the shooters wanted the lockdown to run everybody up and have the highest number of casualties in the shooting. Their actions don't match the school that is told to us. They set the fires to distract law informants and block the roads, right? The bullied one puts a backpack bomb at the main office. They drive through the school and get the group in the cafeteria together, while the female one cuts the power and turns off the alarms, but not the PA system. Okay. Then they sit there. They sit there. They wait. They wait until the police and the news and all the outlets have arrived before they do anything. Only then do they go get more students, and they only ever grab one more classroom. They kill people, yes, but the leader seems very intentional in not killing anyone until the end. Like, until they are all in a room together. Like, he has all of the students from the school. But why? Why does that make sense? He's bad at it. But he's presented like he's super intelligent and unique in his goals, and like it's portrayed as if she did not stop him, he would have been successful. But he wouldn't have, because his plan makes no sense. This could have been a commentary on the unpreparedness of schools for the situation, how like certain factors of these tragedies in specific make it very difficult to have useful protocol. Like, if her fellow students were distrustful of her because she has guns, if she was considered to be one of the shooters, if she's like helping people, yes, and taking out the shooters, but there's also direct casualties and consequences for her actions. Like, there could have been something explored there, but there isn't. This movie isn't saying anything. It's not, and kind of relying a lot on the shock of a movie having the situation to make it memorable or marketable in any capacity, and that is exploitative. Also, their reasons for being shooters, abysmal. Hated it. Don't blame mental illness. Don't blame a mental illness that you obviously know nothing about, too. Don't blame bullying and then try to redeem the guy. Just don't. I didn't like how any of them were portrayed, the female one included. Her and the leader guy both seemed like they belonged more in a Purge movie than this. There was a better way to make this movie, especially that last bit with like the leader guy like almost escaping and stuff. So stupid. Removed, deleted, didn't like. I'm a nerd. This has been my blurb. I hope you liked it. I know it's been a while. This will be my only tie to English for a while, so I will need it. So I will be using it. I'm in a hotel room right now. I will be in a new location probably by next time. So look forward to that. If you want to keep up with my life outside of this and where I've been, again, the video does exist, but just my social medias, I'll link them down below. If you would like to know where I am or where I've been or what's been going on, I'll link the video again. Subscribe if you want to, comment if you want to. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on all this, and I will see you next time. I guess if I were to rewrite this movie, her mom wouldn't die of cancer, because that's really random and has like no tie to anything else going on, no matter how badly this movie wants us to think it does. In my version, her mom was like an active US military member who was very strict on and with her, who made her feel like she would never live up to her expectation. And our protagonist, Zoe, was in like ROTC or some kind of other training to be like her mother, because she wanted to follow her mom's footsteps, to prove her worth, to prove that she was just as capable. This would set Zoe up as having like the skill set that not everybody else has, and it could also make her more clever in how she ends up going about hunting these guys down in the school rather than just like them being idiots. It would also explain like her capabilities with a gun, being capable of survival. But in my rewrite of this film, her mom took it to like extremes. So in that first scene that we see Zoe teetering towards sociopathy by butchering a deer with no second thought, instead we get a flashback to like Zoe's mother making her kill the deer, pushing her, telling her to do better, be stronger. Then in my version, her mother is still dead, whether it was from being an active military member or even just like a random act of violence, I don't know. I feel like either could work. And then that's when Zoe gives up on everything, gives up on her cell phone, dropping out of RTC, disregarding her classes and her grades, because the one thing she always wanted to prove herself to her mother is gone forever, never to be obtained. This provides a motivation for Zoe outside of just saving everyone, when that is also like kind of a flaw in its selfishness of like proving herself. It also can make like the theme of the mother passing tie in more with what is going on, and even if you want to have like the ghost hallucination mother there, you could. It would also allow Zoe to be a lot more clever in the ways that she tries to best the shooters, rather than just them being idiots, which I know I already said, but I feel like it needs to be said again.